Welcome to another edition of Red and Black, where your conservatism is not just the color that you're used to. And this week's show is going to be special or unique or challenging or traumatic, whatever way you want to do it, because between dealing with a breaking conservatarian, sitting here for an hour and wondering, did she say that? And then having somebody shout at me from across the room, just listen to yourself, and then having to talk about Tuesday's debate. So yeah, let's go ahead and start the conversation. Yeah, the conversation. Let's start that with the wonderful people here, starting with the person that usually makes me drink down there, but she's on the road. She's probably in the secret bunker that I was talking about last week, but she's in her own secret bunker. Kira Davis, hello once again.
Hello from El Paso, Texas. I'm on a road trip with my daughter today. I'm super casual. We just rolled into El Paso, my first time here, cute little town. And I'm so glad to have made it to our hotel so I can chat with our amazing guest tonight. I'm so excited for this episode.
So I have to introduce the other one because between the two of them, they have about 10,775,000,000 Twitter followers, and I don't want to anger that nation. So over there is Sonnie Johnson, the Sonnie Johnson, doing her thing on Sirius XM Radio, but coming and joining us here this week on Red and Black. Sonnie, hello.
Hi, thank you guys so much for having me.
And the slacker, the guy over there, that every time you turn around, we have to say, where are you? What are you doing? Come out of your dressing room. The show's on. Do you still want to get paid for this? Oh, wait. Yeah. We don't quite get paid for this yet. Jeff Charles, Red State, Breaking Conservatarian. Break something, break the news, break a leg, whatever the case may be. Jeff, go ahead.
Look, man, this pretty face takes time to put together. I always have to powder my nose. I got to look good. I mean, we got Sonnie Johnson here, so I got to be on point. So,
so I see y'all just cut up on here, huh?
Well, Jeff tried to be brand new and come on here without a hat, and we had to go read paragraph 7.2-5 in regards to branding of Red and Black and that
in the contract.
It's in this contract.
Exactly. Look, we went over it last week. Kira's always the youngest, even though apparently Sonnie and she share a birthday this week. And on top of that, the hat's always worn by the dude from Texas. That's all there is to it. There are certain things that people didn't read in contracts, and I'm going to just jump into it. I'm going to go to the ladies, then I'm going to go to Jeff, and I'm going to try my best while you're trying to explain this to me, Kira, to not grab some Excedrin, because it gave me a headache, kind of, sort of, proverbially, maybe literally, Tuesday night. A lot of people complained about the debate. When you saw it, or when you heard about it, or when you saw it and then you talked to somebody about it, what went through your mind when you saw all of that?
I was watching, and I was looking forward to it because I was looking forward mostly to seeing what what shape he was gonna be in. And oh boy, like from the start, I felt like I was dividing up the last of the orange juice between my kids, like when they were really little. It was just like I couldn't hear. And then with Chris Wallace and with Trump and with Biden, and we didn't get to hear anything really like illuminating. And I wanted some questions to be answered. I wanted to hear, I thought Trump was going to give us his big platinum plan speech. I thought he was going to do all this Trump stuff. And instead it was just these guys talking over each other. And I didn't talk to one person, no, that's a lie. I talked to one single person who enjoyed the debate last night and or on Tuesday. And she is a friend of mine and she just loves chaos. And she loves it when Trump is like sassy and interrupting people. So she enjoyed it. But otherwise, nobody else enjoyed it. I didn't even enjoy it. And I was sitting down with the mind that no matter what happened, I would enjoy it. And I didn't. It was a crap show.
Sonnie, for one, I want to know your perspective on this, because I know that, we all, because we're commentators, have both I'm taking this in as an American, but then there's also but I get to talk about this at some point in time on a platform. When you were watching this, what part of you was, as an American, reacting to it, and what part of it was reacting to it as somebody that's going to go on XM radio on Saturday and discuss what you saw and kind of formulating what to make of all that.
Well, as an American, if it was just as an American, I wouldn't have watched. I didn't watch. I don't know. You kind of get to the point where you realize you're not going to get anything out of these debates, and you would much rather prefer just to catch the sound clips the next day than to actually sit there and pay attention. But for the purpose of work, you have to look at it because you don't know which parts are left out and which parts are not talked about that you could think are consequential. So the thing that I saw the most was frustration. You could tell both Trump and Biden were completely frustrated. And I think that they were frustrated for two different reasons. Biden, I think, was frustrated from having to decide whether he's middle of the road or progressive, knowing where he stands, knowing that he is sort of kind of a moderate, but having to sway everything to make the AOCs happy. And I think you could really see his frustration in that. And with Trump's frustration is he knew that if he did not question Biden, Biden will never be questioned. And that's what his frustration was. He was like, if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it. And it just made him look petty and small, even though I completely understand where he was coming from. I think that he has to figure out a better way to get his frustration out. Get your frustration out on Twitter. Get your frustration out on a rally. When you show up to the debate, be a damn president. And I'm not saying be presidential. I'm saying know what you want to do, know what direction you want to lead the country in, and make sure that is the message that you're presenting, and that you're presenting it to us, not just going against Joe Biden. And I think that was a huge missed opportunity.
Jeff, I like what Sonnie has to say. Be the president without being presidential. I mean, let's be honest. Donald Trump hasn't exactly gotten that being presidential thing down yet, and he's been president for 4 years. But when you go back to what a lot of supporters say about Donald Trump, which is when he's president and the deregulation helped kick the economy into a higher gear, when he's president and we're supporting school choice, when he's president and presenting the Platinum Plan, which we'll talk about later on in the show, these are things that he can win on. Jeff, did he talk about anything that he could actually win on Tuesday? And if he didn't, what does he got to incorporate other than what I mentioned into the next debate?
Yeah, not really. And the thing is, I almost didn't watch the debate because I knew exactly how it was going to be. The way it turned out is exactly the way I expected, just because of the way our political discourse is right now and the fact that it's 2020, so we can't be intelligent and sane right now because it's 2020.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You expected it to be that bad. Everybody expected it to be a mess. You really expected it to go to the level that it actually went to on Tuesday?
Yes, I did. Yes, I expected it to be just as bad as it was. I expected Joe Biden to be actually a little bit more not as aggressive as he was, but I still expected him to be aggressive because I've seen him in other clips. You've seen how he's interacted with some voters who disagreed with him. And even if Biden, this was a Biden that was 5 years younger, it would have been worse because back then he could have even given more than he gave this time. And the thing is I think what Sonnie's saying is true. I mean, with Trump, he even pointed it out. He said, I feel like I'm debating Chris Wallace and Joe Biden. And a lot of people took that as a cop-out, but he was right. And there were plenty of things that Trump did in that debate that irritated me and that I don't like, but I don't know how that changes in the next debate because the next moderator is going to do the exact same thing. So, I mean, the whole thing is going to be a crap show. He wasn't really able to articulate his accomplishments. I saw him putting him in there, but it got overshadowed by the slugfest, basically. And I think maybe in the next debate, he might try to tone it down. I'm sure that his team will coach him to that effect, and he may listen to them. He may not, but I don't think that the second one will be quite as raucous as the first one. But at the same time, that moderator is still going to be biased. So I think you're right. He does have to find other ways to get his frustrations out, because when he does it on stage, part of it people like, but he did it to an extent that was even too much for him. And I think that a lot of people maybe who might have been leaning that way are like, I don't really like that. So it may not affect their votes, but I don't think that the overall aggressiveness really worked in his favor the whole time.
Well, and I got two things to say, and Sonnie, I'm going to come back to you, then Akira. In one regard, it is a little bit of a cop-out because all four of us have done media, and we all know that generally speaking, if it's one moderator, a liberal, and a conservative, chances are it's going to end up being 2-on-1. We've all been in that scenario. I have to imagine his debate team told him that. I don't know if that played as much in this as perhaps this aspect of it. Chris Wallace has been known to drill the president when he's had a chance to interview him or interview people on his team. He was a known quote unquote combatant in the media, whereas the other two moderators have not had as much of an opportunity to interview Trump and Trump staffers. As a result, maybe the president went in there with a little bit more fire in his belly than perhaps he will with other moderators. Sonnie, do you think that makes sense and it might change their debate strategy, or you think we're going to still see the same thing?
I think Trump is Trump, and you're going to get what he is. And I don't think any of us after 4 years should expect anything different. At this point, if you're expecting a different Trump, you've lost your mind. But I think what the problem is that, like I said, he's right when he says what he has to go up against with the media, how Joe Biden doesn't get 1/10 of what he gets from the media. And that's just not because he's in the basement. Even if Joe came out and did interviews every single day, they're still going to be asking him about tingles up his leg, that kind of questioning, as opposed to actually drilling down on anything within Joe Biden's record. So like when you talk about Trump's frustration, it's a real frustration. And I think that as a political party, Republicans need to start thinking about that, because you've seeded so much of journalism, you've seeded so much of media, you've seeded so much of culture, you've seeded everything. And now you're looking at Trump like he is supposed to take the entire country, put it on his back, and fly away like Superman. And it is an unfair expectation for us as Americans to have, whether you like him or you dislike him. But it is a bigger detriment to our country, because we have no control over our narrative. We have no control over our political system at this moment. And we're not going to have any control over our future if we continue to let this happen. So we can look at it and realize that these two candidates are just a microcosm of what we are as the American people. And if we're looking at it and we're saying, oh my gosh, this is a disaster, that would be a really, really good time for us to start looking at ourselves, because it's probably a lot of stuff that we are doing as individuals that gave us these two people as our candidates. You get the government you deserve. And I'm thinking at this point, America doesn't deserve very much, and we might want to start fixing that.
And it's interesting, and Akira, I'm going to come to you in a second, but Jeff, hat tip to you, proverbially and literally, except you're the one wearing the hat. Jeff kind of mentioned this with an article I wrote on Thursday in regards to this type of dynamic. And the thing that made me laugh, because again, you don't feed the animals at the zoo and you don't read the comments if you write online. If you are an amateur trying to do this, that is rule number one. If you skip rule number one, there is no rule number two. You'll be in the corner crying. But with that said, Jeff made it a point to tweet, I can't believe people would read this article and then literally jump down Lenny McAllister's throat for the very thing that he's criticizing in the article. And it goes to Sonnie's point that we are seeing a reflection of who we are. But at the same time, Kira, people see a positive reflection of themselves in Donald Trump. That's why they voted for him in 2016. And that's why, let's be honest, his base went from a plurality to a larger base over the course of his presidency. What does to borrow one of his phrases, what does a controlled fire and fury look like in debate 2 and debate 3, where he can be, to Sonnie's point, truly Donald Trump, but not be unrestrained in a way that even his supporters kind of put their heads down when they're watching it?
I think part of his problem was he didn't prepare. And to me, that I think, to speak to Sonnie's point about the frustration, and let's be fair, he's running the greatest country on earth, so he's a little busy, but he didn't prepare, and I could see that in the faces of the Trump family leading up to the opening of the debate. Everyone looked super tense. Usually they're really laid back, enjoying each other, laughing. They all know how to ham it up for the cameras. And to me, it actually made me think something had maybe happened beforehand, either personal or they got some bad news on the White House front. I don't know. But I tell you what, the Trump that I expected to see and wanted to see, I'm with you, Sonnie, 100% of the way, that we need to stop with this. Trump needs to be this or Trump needs to be that. He should be more presidential. The Trump we have is the Trump America voted for. That's the guy. Like, I hate it when people are like, well, if only he would clean up his tweets. No, that's not Trump. That's who he is. If you don't want to read those tweets, that's fine. But to expect him to change is silly. But what I did expect was the Trump that came out in 2016 against Hillary, the Trump that was a controlled fire and fury, Lenny, where he was eminently prepared. He knew exactly what he wanted to say. He knew that the moderators were going to be hostile. And so he went in there already prepared for every rebuttal, for every question, for every interruption. And he made a fool of Hillary. And that is the guy I wanted to see. But to me, he wasn't even prepared enough to let Biden speak. He needed to let Biden talk more, because the more Biden talks, the sillier he sounds. He doesn't have the stamina to thread all of his thoughts together for too long. And so that was a mistake he made. So I hope that what we see in the next debate is brash, rude, offensive Trump, just the way he's always been, but with the same controlled fury, to use your term, Lenny, that he brought against Hillary. That was the Trump, that was the hashtag winner Trump, that guy. That's the guy I expect to see against Biden.
And I have two thoughts with that. And Jeff, I'll go to you, and we'll eventually get to the platinum plan. But number one, I felt as though the president's plan during this debate was primarily to try their best to wear Biden out and try to get him into an unforced error. And once they got him into an unforced error, then from there, you would see the mistake, and then he can pounce on that. Well, if you're so busy, it reminded me of George Foreman in The Rumble in the Jungle. If you're so busy wailing punches, you're eventually going to tire yourself out. You're not going to be effective with your own ability to throw punches. And as a result, you can't win. Now, in this case, Biden didn't knock him out because he didn't have the stamina to do that either. But the flip side is you don't have the stamina as the champion, which, let's be honest, George Foreman was the champion in 1974, and the incumbent president is the champion in 2020, regardless of what people want to say. You still didn't have the energy to take out your opponent either. Jeff, that's one of the things that came to mind, that strategy, I hope, for those that are going for Trump to win the next two debates, hopefully that doesn't come into play. And the other thing real quick is, Kara, you brought up a great point. He didn't prepare. That made news stories, and it was obvious. And people are saying that the race is over. Can I name another incumbent president that looked horrible during the first debate, that also didn't prepare very well, and it looked as though he might lose as well? Barack Obama. Does anybody remember that in 2012? How bad he did against Mitt Romney? And people were like, what's wrong with him? He's such a great communicator. But he, as an incumbent president, doesn't have the time to do the mock debates that a challenger has. And it shows primarily in the first debate. Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I agree with Kira that he needs to go in like he did in 2016. That's how he's going to win, because he was still aggressive, but he was smarter with it. And I think with Biden, like you said, he has to let Biden talk and hang himself a little bit more. But what I'm going to add to that, though, is that, and honestly, I think the fact that he was so amped up and so aggressive, I think that's why he made the big mistake that he made in that debate when it came to that white supremacy question. He's going to get asked that question again. That's going to come up again in the second debate. He needs to be prepared to give the answer that he needs to give. He's already done it a little bit. Like yesterday, they interviewed him on the White House lawn, and he gave a much better answer to that question. But it's not going to go away. he needs to answer that question the right way when it comes up in the second debate, or they're going to use it against him.
What's the right way, Jeff? What do you think? I've been thinking about this because I've been thinking about this too. And I've been thinking, what would I say? Because the thing is that
I know what I would say.
The thing is that people don't realize that he has answered this question over and over and over again. And I can understand his frustration with it. So I'm curious as to what you think. If you were coaching him, what would you say his response should be?
You gave me my lead-in. My answer would be, like I have already said a billion times over and over and over again, I unequivocally denounce white supremacy. Again, for the 100th billionth and one time, I denounce white supremacy. And guess what? Why doesn't Joe Biden denounce Antifa? Now that I've gotten that out of the way, are you going to ask him that same question?
Or
they're not going to ask him that question, but
right.
you
Or ask
can point that out.
Biden to denounce white supremacy. Well, it's always the Republican that's got to denounce white supremacy. You know what I mean? Like Wallace didn't even turn that question on Biden. Even in that assumption, there is an inherent bias. There is an inherent narrative. It's an underlying idea, and it seeps into the American consciousness. They do this on purpose. But the idea, you keep asking this. If I keep asking Lenny when he stopped beating his wife, and that, then eventually people are going to associate Lenny with beating his wife. So I would, if I were him, I would make and that was what Sonnie was saying. Did we lose Sonnie, Lenny?
We did lose Sonnie. I'm waiting for her to come back.
Okay.
So we're waiting patiently.
That stuff happens. We'll continue until she comes back with her brilliance. But yeah, I think that I get what Sonnie was saying, that Trump was frustrated. He knew he had to ask the questions that Wallace wasn't going to ask, and then that ended up getting in his way. But I agree with you, Jeff. If I was him, and the next time somebody asked me that on stage, I will be like, you know what? I'm not answering this question anymore. I do not. I have denounced it. I have denied it. You all won't cover it. And yet you keep asking me the question. And so this is the last time if I were Trump, I would put a moratorium on that question.
This is how you kill the question. And this is also how you brilliantly pivot to another topic on Red and Black. What you say is, well, I have answered this question thousands of times. Not only do I denounce white supremacy, but I support the equality of African Americans across our country. That's the reason why on Friday, I announced the Platinum Plan, which is my plan to continue the great work that I have done with my administration, the things that we have built upon in my administration that was not done under the first African American president, was not done during the era of the quote unquote first Black president, which, by the way, Joe, is also the era in which you wrote the crime bill, the bill that you were so proud of in 1994 and you've been running from in the last 18 months. We put this Platinum Plan out because we understand that African Americans are equal to Americans. There's no such thing as supremacy other than America being great again. Boom. They would never ask the question again. You all can take the clip. You can send it to the White House. You can also send me my consulting fee. Why didn't we hear about the Platinum Plan? First of all, why didn't we hear about it? And second of all, I'm going to start with you, Kira. I know that Sonnie's getting back on the line shortly. Tell me what you thought about the announcement, not just the pomp and circumstance, because we know a lot of people that were down there over the weekend, but what did you think about actually what was announced? We're talking about
I mean, for me, if I'm just being honest, like there's no spending plan that the government's going to announce that's going to like get me real jazzed. I read it and I was like, great, more spending. But as far as optics are concerned, and as far as the idea that he's listening to people and he's the only one that's putting, him and Tim Scott, the only one that's putting forth an attempt to elevate the Black community through government help. Like, I thought that was pretty awesome, and it stole a lot of wind out of the sails of the Democrats. I mean, some of it's great, like opportunity zone, some of it's revenue neutral, right? Like budget neutral, but some of it is like $500 billion for this. And the libertarian part of my brain is like, no, I don't, where's this money coming from? But it's not really about the money. As we know, money, it doesn't mean anything in the federal government anymore. So, but what it's about is, and this is what I've told you both, that I think what the plan Trump unveiled, it is clear to me that he's listening to his advisors, because we know most of those people that are around him right now, the Black Voices for Trump people, we know those people. And these are the conversations that we've been having for a dozen years or more with all these same people. And now that they're with him, these are the things that you're seeing him put out there. So that tells me he's listening to his advisors. And by the way, it's very interesting. I'll say this. Most of my friends and family on social media are liberals and hate Trump and are Black. And I was watching the feed of a relative while he was doing the debate, and she said she thought the Platinum Plan was BS. She didn't believe, for her, it didn't even make a difference. It didn't even make a dent in her opinion of who he was or what he was doing. She was just like, well, it didn't matter to her that Democrats have offered nothing, that Biden has no plan. That was not even on her radar. The only thing, her only response to it was, oh, this isn't real. So I don't know. And why didn't he talk about it? I'm like, that was a missed opportunity, but that probably goes back to my original point of he didn't prepare.
And it was definitely more fire than fury, or maybe more fury than fire. It was definitely not a controlled combustible mix. Let's just put it like that. Jeff, is this too much big government for conservatives to get on board with this? Is this something that sounds like a mighty good plan, but at the same exact time, it's a little bit too much big government? So even though it's good for the African-American community, it's not good for Black conservatives to necessarily get behind? Or is this an instance where we say, you know what? Even if government's driving it, it's better that conservatives and Republicans are doing something because the Democrats just haven't overall this time.
Yeah, the thing is about the plan. I mean, I think most conservatives can get on board with it. I don't know if most Republicans will. I mean, there's a difference there. I don't know if a lot of Republicans in Congress or in the party will get on board with it. I noticed that a lot of people were very silent about it. Black conservatives and white conservatives as well. The thing about this plan, and Biden does actually have a plan. I didn't get to go through the whole thing, but it is very much reliant on government. Trump's plan, while it does involve a lot of government, it's mainly tailored to allowing the free market, or making it easier for Black people to use the free market to get ahead. There's also things in there about education, school choice, stuff like that. So I think that people can get on board with it. At the same time, I'm not sure how much it's being pushed, and that's kind of where my concerns come into play. He may not have brought it up during the debate because of planning, but I mean, I'm always afraid of, and it doesn't matter if it's Trump or somebody else, but I'm always afraid of it just being a tool to pander with. But one of the positive things I can say about it is that this is the first time in recent memory that both presidential candidates are actually actively competing for the Black vote. And I think I lost my train of thought.
Do you think Biden is really actively competing for the Black vote?
He went on Charlamagne the God show. That should be enough. Thank you very much.
I didn't say that Biden was competing aggressively, but he has. I mean, he's competing as much as a Democrat would have to. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. But I was going to say that I'm not surprised, Kira, that your friend thinks that it's BS on Trump's part. I don't really blame Trump for that. I blame the bad decisions that the GOP has made for years. So I would expect that the first time that a Republican president puts forth a plan like that, the first time in years, that it would be met with skepticism. It's going to take time to regain that trust. And it probably won't even happen during Trump's tenure, even if he is reelected. So I would expect that to happen. But I like that this was at least the starting point. If the GOP follows Trump's lead on this, going forward into the future, eventually that trust will be won back. But it's not going to happen in just a few years. It's going to be a while. It's a marathon.
Is it a good plan? Like, let me ask that question, because people, I mean, to your point, Jeff, it almost seems like it's more of an actual plan, because if it were just a pandering point, I think that Trump would have grabbed at it like a life jacket as soon as he felt like he was drowning with the white supremacist question. It would have been right there at the tip of his fingers. Instead, he didn't even think about it. So maybe this really is part of a platform, but should it be? Is it actually a good plan, or is this just kind of it's a nice thing to have an event around?
Are you asking me or Jeff?
I'm asking you both, but I will go ladies first because we know what happens to us when we talk over you.
Thank you. Okay. Don't be Chris Wallace, Lenny.
Exactly. Madam President.
I honestly don't know if I can say it's a good plan because there's so much spending in it, and I don't like that. But I do like look, you put school choice in anything and I'm on board. Like, that is my number one issue. I'll sell out for anybody who's willing to stand up for that. That's in there. I love that. I love the opportunity zone portion of it. I think Jeff hit the nail on the head when he said that there are a lot of free market solutions in this plan. I like that. I don't like the Republicans trying to become the Democrats in the respect of, well, we'll just spend our way into your hearts, because I'm sick of government spending. But as far as at the end of the day, no one's ever put forth a plan like this for Black America ever in the history of this country. So that's something. In that respect, it is a good plan. But I think the reason why you haven't heard a lot of conservatives come out heavily in favor of this is, A, it makes hypocrites out of a lot of conservatives because there's a lot of spending in that bill. And B, there is still a very large portion of conservative America who don't like the idea of catering to any specific racial group. And so they feel that this is sort of pandering, or that this is admitting to some kind of racism on the part of conservatives or Republicans. And they don't like that. Like today I pointed out on Twitter that Red State has now the most Black writers of any conservative site in our industry. I mean, that's a big freaking deal, but you would never know it. The haters don't ever give us any love. And then a lot of conservatives don't like me to point that out. Well, it shouldn't matter what color you are. Well, it does. It just does, especially when
they don't really believe that, though.
They were.
And you know where I'm going to go with that. They don't really believe that color shouldn't matter. Because every time somebody said that to me on Twitter, every single time I see somebody talk about colorblind stuff on Twitter, I just go to the search feature, put in their handle, put in black on black, and I come up with something. I come up with a lot. I will take one of those tweets, copy and paste it, and I'll put, "Is this you?" And they usually don't respond. So when that stuff comes up, I'm like, no, you do care about race. Don't pretend like you don't. And you know what? It's fun. It's okay to care about race. I mean, I think it's okay.
Right.
There's a difference between caring about it and being obsessed with it. Caring about race does not turn us into the left.
Or caring about race in a way that you know that it's meaningful without making it be the end all be all. Jeff, you have a point. I'm sorry. There are certain people in this world, it's almost like a Google search engine. If you put black on black into it and hit enter, Chicago's going to come right back out. That's the next thing that's going to happen. What about Chicago? It's going to be there. But yet when you start talking about disparities where you can see statistics, then we're race baiting. Lord knows if I had $1 every time I was called a race baiter from the right, I'd be a very rich man. So there's a way to talk about race and go after things and say there are free market solutions that you can put in play that makes sense. But then it goes back to what we have talked about here on Red and Black and elsewhere. How many people really know their conservative values? If it just has an R behind it, it doesn't automatically make it conservative. Medicaid Plan D was led by Republicans, but expanded government. We can do this with multiple examples. People just don't want to, for whatever reason, put that out there. Jeff, one final thing to you about the Platinum Plan. What should we see when it comes to the messengers for this plan? Because that's a brand new bag too, because you could make the case that Donald Trump is all about the art of the deal, and this is the beginning of the negotiation. We can bring down the spending. It doesn't have to be hard dollars going into the economy to goose these things for African Americans. These could be tax credits. These could be other types of things. It could be more leveraged on school choice. What's said and then who says it plays a big deal in regards to how this all plays out. if they leverage it over the course of the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, messaging is going to be a huge factor, and it's usually an area where the GOP tends to fall short. Trump is going to have a really good team of people that can get into the communities, can explain what the plan is going to do, why it's going to work. Also being able to get right to the people, because the thing is that most of these cities are run by Democrats who aren't going to want it to work. So, I mean, these people are going to have the type of messaging that can point out this is what it's supposed to do, as long as your local government does what they're supposed to do on their end. So I think that if we focus on the policy and on the measure and not so much on, rhetoric or trying to have good sound bites, people who actually sit down with leaders in the community, pastors, coaches, teachers, principals, people who run nonprofits, sit down with those types of folks and not just explain the plan, but also get a feel for what they need. Listen. That's something that the Republican Party has been lacking, and I think a lot of even conservative organizations have been lacking. And I think a lot of it is because they feel like they don't know how. But I think if you get the right people who can actually teach them how to do it and go there with them, I think we can definitely make a difference.
Now, I hate to disappoint everybody, but Sonnie Johnson's feeling a little under the weather. I've been looking at my phone. Yeah, so we're not gonna go as long as we normally would. Everybody out there, we normally go an hour. We're gonna cut it a little short because Sonnie's not gonna be with us. But you gotta make sure.
Sorry, Sonnie. Thank you for being with us for this first part, though. We appreciate it.
We thoroughly enjoyed her being there. Make sure you go check her out on XM Radio on Saturdays, where she's on Sonnie's Corner and she's lighting it up. And she has people such as Jeff on there. She's had people such as Kira on there, and that's all the people on Red and Black that she's invited on there as guests.
Hint, hint.
Hint, hint.
Lenny.
Now, look, you can't even do that joke these days, Kira. You do that, somebody's going to come around.
Yeah.
I know.
Where's your face mask?
Put a cotton swab up your nose. That is not what you do.
I know.
We know. Because we'll start doing the show before you know it next week like this. Hello, I'm like, we don't want that.
Oh, I was driving through New Mexico today, and it was like it was so dusty. And at one point, I just got really choked up, and I was drinking water. My daughter was like, "Are you okay?" Like, it's not COVID, it's dust.
Well, I'm going to give you another thing, Kira, that probably got you choked up over the course of the last couple of days. It's Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben is going away. Uncle Ben is going to be Ben's Original from now on, because nobody wants to buy something from an old slave. We got rid of Aunt Jemima. We've gotten rid of the Washington football team name. And now what we're doing, now what we have is that Uncle Ben is going. Now, I know that Kira is not really happy about this. I get that. But the truth of the matter is, it's 2020. And if we're going to have COVID, and we're going to have the debate that we had on Tuesday, and we're going to have dumpster pool parties, and we're going to have all the other stuff that we're going to have Paris Jackson as Jesus, we can at least go from Uncle Ben's to Ben's Original. Kira, can you?
I don't understand what the big deal is. I got an Uncle Bill. Uncle Bill's an old black man. Am I not allowed to call him Uncle Bill?
He's
Uncle
selling
Bill,
rice.
God rest his soul. Uncle Bill's yeast rolls were the best yeast rolls. I don't understand what the big deal is here. I mean, honestly, I don't care. Call Ben's Original, call Uncle's Ben's. But you're so cranky about this, Lenny, and to me, who cares? And don't take his picture off the box. This is, to be quite serious now, this feels a little bit ridiculous that we're overcorrecting. Now we're just going to start erasing Black people from our products altogether. Like, that doesn't make any sense either. But I had some Aunt Jemima syrup the other day. She's got her perm. She's looking nice. She's looking good. The syrup tasted great. And Uncle Ben's rice is great rice. It's a respectable brand. It's a dependable brand. You know what you're getting every time. I don't even know if America is here anymore. We have moved on to 5 other crises since this.
I will give you that. It seems as though they were awful late. It's like, me too. No unintended on me too. But you get my point. It's almost as if they came late to the party. It's like, the old hold my beer, except no one really cares about holding the beer. But here's the thing with the other part of it is, you know, when you're starting to see all these things cropping up and we start realizing that all these remnants have been around for decades. And I don't think that white kids that are 8 years old are going around wanting to call me uncle because they think I'm a former slave because they had Uncle Ben's rice. At the same exact time, when I look at some of the things, Jeff, that I've read with the Aunt Jemima syrup, where they said, you know, I trusted Aunt Jemima. I just trusted that her food would taste good. And you're sitting there saying they're trusting a domesticated Black woman to cook a good meal. And maybe that is putting them into a stereotyped way of thinking.
Black women don't cook good meals? Is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing. It could also be a very stereotypically limiting thing. And that's the argument that some people are making. Am I making that argument? No, because I don't think that people go around and see Aunt Jemima and automatically think that all Black women are stupid. At the same exact, or they're just house servants. At the same exact time, I've said it on this show before. I'm not buying Aunt Jemima products. I'm not buying Uncle Ben's products. I stopped buying Cream of Wheat. I used to like Cocoa Wheats when they had him on there as well. I'm not with those things up there. I just am not. Some Black people, apparently you, Kira, and probably Jeff, because he's over there laughing at me, probably feel the same way. I get it, whatever, but they won't have my dollars.
You know, Famous Amos is next. Those cookies.
I'm calling it
right now.
Do not dare.
You know, I will say this, Jeff. I will say this though. I am so sick of this stupid, mindless virtue signaling. So let me get this straight. They'll take the guy's picture off the box and rename it. Is this corporation actually going to do anything for the Black community? Are they going to, you know, help with education or help with after?
We lost Jeff. So now the question is because, see, if you don't look,
what's going on tonight?
Well, it's also in the contract. It's in paragraph 11-4, which is if you don't agree with Lenny on the show.
Oh shoot!
Lenny kicks you off the show.
I forgot that measure. I forgot that clause.
See,
I'm the last one standing.
What ended up happening is you're also the star of the show, so I have to be a little slower on kicking you off. Now, Jeff, you read the contract. Say something you agree with me on, or else you're off to go again.
Jeff, don't agree with Lenny. Agree with me, or I'll kick you off.
No. Well, I think we can all agree with this, that we are tired of the mindless virtue signaling, like I was saying before. And where I was just to pick up where I left off, is this corporation actually doing anything to help Black people, or is this their way of saying, oh, you poor little Negroes, we'll help you out. Let's take this guy's face off the box. That'll make everything better. No,
Jeff,
get out of here with that. Like, no.
Do you have people on your board? How many Black executives do you have? You know, what's the Black ownership? I mean, how do you build Black wealth? If you're really feeling white guilt, what are you doing about it? Because if it's just taking a name off of a box and giving one of these and taking a picture with your arm around somebody, that is completely virtue signaling, and it's wrong and it's shallow. And they're
using us to make more money. That's all this is.
Bingo. And it's to Kira's point. It's like, well, you know, if that's all you're going to do, I might as well just go ahead and buy the syrup and buy the pancakes and everything else. Oh, by the way, Mrs. Butterworth's in there as well. That's another one. So
it's white.
What syrup? Am I not going to have any syrup left for my pancakes?
Pardon me?
I'm not going to have any syrup left for my pancakes.
Log Cabin. You can go
Uncle Tom's Cabin. Really, Lenny?
Oh, snap.
Aldi brand.
You know what? Here's the thing. Here's the other thing. Like, I'm being lighthearted about this because the truth is that I actually rarely boycott anything. I'm more of a boycott person. Like, if I feel somebody's being treated unfair, like I'll go buy a bajillion Chick-fil-A sandwiches or whatever. So typically, and I'm not negating that for anybody else. Like, believe me, I was raised by an environmentalist, atheist hippie. We boycotted everything growing up. Like, my mom had to source where her grapefruits came from to make sure that they weren't coming from a country that used too much oil, or South Africa, or like exhaustive. Trust me. I get it. But I guess for me, since I don't really boycott anything, this is more of an interesting conversation and less of a, this is really going to change my life in any way. And I guess that speaks to Jeff's point, which is like, there will absolutely be no change in my life at all for them changing Ben to Uncle Ben's, but I never had a problem with it, but I guess I'm not their main customer.
Jeff, but let me ask this, Jeff, because you bring up an interesting point, and the next logical step to that is Black Lives Matter may have pushed directly or indirectly for the removal of these faces from everything from the NFL with the Washington football team through these products, but they seem to be incomplete with the mission. One of the things that I always respected about Jesse Jackson, including the time that I had a chance to work with him on education, was the fact that when he was pushing for stuff, he was talking about how many blacks do you have in a boardroom? How many blacks do you have as executives, et cetera? And it's as if the older generation got that, but the Black Lives Matter activists of today don't. And
because Black Lives Matter ain't black.
Right.
And you're right. I mean, and I have a lot of disagreements with Jesse Jackson, obviously, but yeah, he was pushing for concrete solutions. Black Lives Matter, at least the national movement, is not pushing for anything concrete, at least not anything concrete that has to do with black people. These are these are white progressives and political blackfaces. They're using blackface or black faces to pursue their agenda. So no, they're not going to push for anything concrete for us. They're going to push for murals on streets. They're going to push for, they're not going to push for anything that actually benefits it. They're going to push for defunding the police. Like, I mean, they don't care about us.
But I mean, to your point, perhaps, is it's just one thing. It's not Black Lives Matter. It's I want police reform, which is not the same as Black Lives Matter and we want equality. I mean, that seems to be where the disconnect is. I mean, you could say that police reform is concrete, but it's not the all-encompassing set of solutions that they are selling to people on the air, in social media, etc.
They're not. Okay, no. Yeah, Jeff is absolutely right. The organization, it's important to put that out. The organization is not selling solutions. And if you go to their site and you read what they're about, you see that, because it's all this ethereal stuff that is absolutely horrible for the Black community. Like, we want to dismantle the patriarchy. Well, hello, we need our Black fathers. A lot of them are missing, and it's devastated our community. We want to dismantle the nuclear family. Hello, we'd love to have more Huxtables in the Black community. Like, everything they say they want to do is the exact opposite of what would happen.
We need more Huxtables. We don't need more Bill Cosbys. We want to make that very clear on Red and Black. We need more Huxtables, not more Bill Cosbys.
Okay, fair enough.
Jeff, go ahead and fill in the rest before we get out of here.
Yeah, no, I mean, Kira put it up perfectly. I mean, Black Lives Matter, and it doesn't even matter if it's Black Lives Matter or another white progressive organization. I mean, they're not going to push for actual solutions. That's not what they're about. They don't care about us. Now, the rank and file people, a lot of them on the ground, I think a lot of them do care. I mean, even some of the, honestly, as bad as it sounds, even some of the Antifa people I've met here in Austin when I went to one of their protests, they actually think that they're helping us. These are young people.
It was 18, the same 19, when 20. I covered all the Occupy Wall Street protests. And these are all the same people, by the way. It's the same group. They just reorganized. But it was the same way. Occupy Wall Street, there was the violent people that came out and destroyed and burned stuff down. But most of the people, even the ones that were kind of cranky, they genuinely, the foot soldiers, they genuinely believed that they were helping.
And it's because
it's the people that are manipulating them that don't really care. Yeah.
And it's because they're living in the community versus being organizers, being parachuted into these communities, being there for 72 hours, getting a couple of sound bites and then going off and raising money off it versus people that actually live there. And that's a lot of what people miss, is the fact that a lot of these solutions that are coming in at the high level, what you're hearing about nationally, are not being driven by people that have to live the everyday life. And there's a big difference when it comes to that. So I'm going to go ahead and get us out of here because, again, unfortunately, Sonnie got sick and things happen. We wish her well. Listen to her, XM Radio, 1 o'clock Eastern, Sonnie's Corner. I believe it's channel 125, XM Patriot. Kira Davis, editor-at-large, Red State, you got one of the best podcasts going. Just listen to yourself. You got the Kira Davis Show. Brag on yourself for about a minute or so.
Well, I'm actually going to take, you pitched me well. I'm going to take this time to brag on Sonnie, and we'll definitely have her back at a time when she's feeling better, because you guys heard just a small snippet of what she said, and even that was very moving. And I say this all the time. Sonnie Johnson is literally the smartest woman I know. And I mean that. She is wickedly intelligent, and she's taught me so much over the years that, and I know that sometimes her style for conservatives might feel a bit abrasive or harsh, or she doesn't sound like maybe people you're used to hearing on this side of the fence. But trust me, the woman has ideas and a way of connecting them to the emotion of the idea that I envy. And I'm so happy that she got to be with us for a few minutes tonight. I'm definitely going to work on her to get her back at a time when she's feeling much better. And thank you, Sonnie. I hope you're feeling better. But yeah, I can't say enough good things about Sonnie. Honestly, she has inspired me to learn more, to read more. I don't listen to the same type of music she listens to, but she makes it into pure magic. It's Shakespearean when she talks about it. And she is able to extol the virtues of the hip hop culture in respect to how it mirrors capitalism and the virtues of capitalism. So she has so much good things to say. So go, if you don't follow Sonnie, please. You will learn so much.
Indeed. Mr. Charles, Mr. Breaking Conservatarian, you have been, as the hip-hop Republican would like to say, you have been rocking the mic lately. Brag on yourself for a second.
Yeah, you can get me on YouTube at Breaking Conservatarian. I am going to be interviewing NASCAR Sammy, actually, over this weekend. And he's an 18-year-old kid, and he's going to be spreading awareness about autism to the NASCAR community. I'm really excited for it, so I think it'll be great. But also, I kind of have to piggyback off of what Kira said. I mean, the thing about Sonnie Johnson is that, like, when I get aggravated from what I'm trying to do to try to change people's minds on the right, I think about her and the fact that she's been doing it for over 10 years and hasn't stopped. So when I feel like I like a little bit whiny, I think about her. I'm like, no, I can do this. Like Sonnie Johnson, unlike Batman, Sonnie Johnson is the hero that we deserve and that we need here on the right. So definitely follow her on Twitter at Did She Say That?
First of all, you don't just get a little whiny. I don't know if anybody's had this conversation with you or not. But it gets to be a little, but that's okay.
No, Jeff is special.
Yeah,
the thing is, you're not gonna go to Jeff's timeline and just chill and just be feeling good, all good about yourself. That's not what's gonna happen. No, but you're gonna have a good time though.
Yes.
And truth be told, Jeff and Sonnie, they are doing their things. They're coming from a different perspective. Kira's been out there rocking it for over 10 years herself, and to be only 28 years old, it's pretty impressive, Kira. And we all are trying to continue to bring the message to you, because there is value in taking our conservatism to new constituencies, bringing new solutions, and healing the divide that we're seeing throughout the nation. So check out the articles from Kira, from Jeff, from Sonnie. Listen to their shows. Check out their podcast. I'm also writing on Red State as well. I appreciate all of you out there. I know they do as well. Sonnie, please feel well soon. Thank you so much for joining us. In the meanwhile, everybody, join us next week. We won't have a presidential debate to bemoan, but we'll have a vice presidential debate to probably analyze and break down and bemoan a little bit. In the meanwhile, we'll talk to you soon. Kira, you stay safe. Jeff, you stay special. You all stay beloved. We'll talk to you soon. TCNGB. Take care and God bless. Peace.